because you made me go over.
I know, but you can't. You just can't walk over, huh? Can't just come over.
Do you want me to walk over?
Yeah, just for a second.
Is that possible?
Yeah,
okay.
Just walk over.
Just for a second.
Hannity
gets
over.
a second.
Okay,
right,
this is exciting TV. Let's see how long it takes us. Do we have the Jeopardy theme music?
Yeah, okay, I got it. I'm walking over.
Okay, his MP's going to have to connect them when he comes in.
He's got a microphone.
Oh, he has a microphone?
Wireless.
He's wireless mic? See, we don't have, MP, we don't have wireless mics in our studio. We do, but why? I feel like I'm all hooked up all the time. There's no freedom of movement.
Whoa. Hannity, that would have been great
what
TV.
What I understand is, like, I don't get wireless mics. How do you get a wireless mic? Is that more expensive?
Okay,
you're the star.
I'm like grandpa here. I've been here 23 years. How long have you been here?
A long time.
So I walk into the makeup room tonight, and what's the first thing you do? Oh, you only have 3 jokes in your repertoire. Oh, you're this. Oh, you're
Ingraham.
Oh, you get to
all my friends
Melania.
say, can he pronounce your name right before the end of the new year? I said, I don't think so.
Okay, why do you not? You call me all sorts of names.
I don't call you names at all. Hannah-tide. Hannah-ties. Okay, I have a serious thing. I loved watching your interview with Melania. Mm-hmm. She has been maligned and ridiculed and unfairly attacked from almost day one. But before they got into the White House.
Here's the most amazing thing. She's been independent since traveling Milan, the world, school, a world of modeling, which is extraordinarily tough. And English is her 5th language, not her 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th. Right. And more importantly, she has the same passion. Look, the president, who I know really well and support, and I believe is treated unfairly, that president, this is getting double speak in my ear, right. that president works day and night for the country, and we've had success. And she, too, works day and night. And I've never seen such an abuse of an entire family like I've seen here. Not only that, the full power of the deep state, Democrats, media, it's unrelenting.
No, they're frothing at the mouth now because they think they think they're cornering their prey and they have them right where they want. And I can say the American people are so much smarter than the folks over at the other cables, the folks who are constantly maligning good people. And the setup from the beginning, the more I look at this, and I'm getting this tonight, Hannity, the setup from the beginning, and you touched on it with Michael Flynn, is appalling what they did to Michael Flynn at 33 years.
This is how we treat
it's disgusting.
Our veterans.
I gotta say, it's disgusting.
But I will tell you this, mark my words, it won't take long. They are so nuts in Nancy Pelosi's Congress. They are going, here's my prediction, by month 1, you will see the insanity of how extreme this party is coming out. And it's going to be, watch Donald Trump's numbers go higher than they've ever been.
Oh, they always take it a step too far. But so you have a part 2 tomorrow?
I honestly, being on that helicopter today, watching those planes come in, land, take off, watching how the people gravitated towards her. One thing I didn't say, which is true, her approval rating's higher than the president's. And he's so competitive that I could just imagine that's going to...
No, it's great. I can't wait to look forward. And thanks for coming to D.C., and I'm glad you did the interview.
From now on, I'm just coming in here.
Yeah, just do the show from here. It's more fun.
Well, they won't let me do the show from here because it's your studio. You have to prepare. That's
By the way, your studio, the other night, I did my show Monday. Could you import our graphics next time? Because they're like, oh, no, we can't import your graphics. I mean, everyone's trying to do their best. They're going to kill me. But I was like, this is Hannity's studio. I'm like, oh, I almost did like itching.
This is too many Hannitys for me.
It's like itching powder on the seat. I was going to do something, but they wouldn't let me. Anyway, Sean, have a good trip back. All right, my friend.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
There you go.
No Grinch for you. All right, everybody. This is a long lead-in. The whole show is going to have to change now. All right, I'm Laura Ingraham. This is the Ingram Angle from Washington tonight. It was one of the biggest stories of the year, and there are still many outstanding questions. Tonight, the Ingram Angle will bring you an update on the Kavanaugh fallout. Is there an investigation into who leaked Christine Ford's letter? What about the criminal referral submitted to the DOJ over false testimony by Michael Avenatti and Julie Swetnick? You bet I'm not going to let go of that. Answers ahead. Plus, extortion at the southern border. What folks in the caravan are now demanding of President Trump. Hint, It's not even asylum. Raymond Arroyo is also here to break down the body language inside yesterday's Oval Office slugfest between President Trump and, of course, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. I guess that's among. And by the way, a look at the outrageous new Dick Cheney movie coming up in Seen and Unseen. And Devin Nunes will be here to tell you why the Democrats ending corruption probes at the FBI is very bad news for the country and what we can do about it. But first, immigration truths the Democrats deny. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Congressmen and senators are supposed to be fighting for the American people, their constituents. But when Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer pounced on the president in the Oval Office yesterday, for whom exactly were they fighting?
Yeah, we have a disagreement about the wall, whether it's effective or not. Not on border security, but on the wall.
You can't have very good border security without the wall, no.
That's absolutely not true. That is a political promise. Border security is a way to effectively honor our
And
responsibility.
the experts say you can do border security without a wall, which is wasteful and doesn't solve the problem.
Who is Chuck Schumer looking at in that clip? By the way, we have a very fascinating body language expert analysis of that entire exchange coming up in the show. But back to this. Both the Senate and the House oath of offices are nearly identical. They begin like this. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. At this point, are we even sure that Chuck and Nancy took the oath? I have a news flash for the dynamic duo. When migrants illegally cross our borders, whether they come to work or to collect welfare using false documents, whether they come to deal drugs or join murderous gangs that are already here, this does constitute a foreign enemy action. That's why Trump was so clear at the end of the Oval Office exchange yesterday. He understands the threat and he wants to answer it.
If we don't get what we want, one way or the other, whether it's through you, through a military, through anything you want to call, I will shut down the government.
Okay,
Absolutely.
fair enough.
And I
We
am
disagree.
proud, and I'll
We
tell you what,
disagree.
I am proud to shut down the government for border security, Chuck.
It's that important for him. But the Democrats are determined to block Trump's efforts to fortify the border, and you can see them. They recoil at any border wall talk. But here are the facts. The Democrats are willing to sell out the country, law and order be damned, in order to deny Trump a victory over the wall. A few years ago, they were all for fortifying the border, but not now. Of course, if we had a media that publicized actual facts on illegal immigration and other immigration issues rather than obsessing 24/7 about Michael Cohen or focusing on a few really sympathetic people in Tijuana, well, would have a lot more Democrats feeling the pressure on this issue from the voters. Check this out. A new Gallup World Poll found that nearly 160 million people around the world want to emigrate to the United States. 160 million. I bet it's more than that. Well, naturally, the U.S. is the top destination for immigrants. 21% of them would like to come here permanently. How are we supposed to deal with that kind of demand for access to our shores? Obviously, we can't absorb half of our current population. Or is that actually what the Democrats want? After all, that would be an entirely new country. The pragmatic position here, my friends, is simple. There must be an orderly legal process, one that protects the interests of the American people first when it comes to immigration. Most Americans, I really think, have no idea of the true cost of illegal immigration. Again, the media will not report it. Let's look at health care. Even though illegals are forbidden access from federally funded health care, Forbes magazine estimates that 3.9 million uninsured illegals receive about $4.6 billion in health services from the federal government, federal taxes. $2.8 billion from state and local taxpayers goes to illegal immigrants, and $3 billion from higher payments by insured Americans. In other words, you're paying it because your costs are jacked up. All told, Americans cross subsidized health care for unauthorized immigrants to the tune of $18.5 billion a year. Now, with that money, we could build a triple wall with all sorts of cool, stuff on it along the border. Come on. $18.5 billion? The president knows well that our loose asylum laws, another issue, the catch and release policy, chain migration, have also acted as magnets, and that has ballooned our illegal immigrant population. Once in country, they place an enormous stress on local law enforcement, as I said, healthcare providers, and our schools. Resources that should be benefiting Americans and legal immigrants. This money should be spent on our people and the people who've respected our laws to come here, not on non-citizens who are illegally present. Here's a perfect example. According to government data released yesterday afternoon, in President Trump's first fiscal year in office, more than 2,304 people were arrested for either employing illegals or working illegally in the country. That's a 700% increase from the previous fiscal year. Now, this is all a direct result of Trump authorizing ICE to investigate all crime committed by or with illegal immigrants, and not just focusing, of course, on the most serious cases. Well, now Democrats are going to say, why is the government arresting hardworking immigrants? They're just seeking a better way of life. Well, this is a simple twofold answer. One, they're not here illegally. But two, and just as important, they are taking jobs that hardworking Americans do not have access to. We cannot incentivize corporations to use cheap labor, giving them an unfair advantage and destroying other companies' abilities to compete. The crackdown also, by the way, sends a message to the next wave of illegals. You too will be deported if you try to come here and work without permission, and of course collect all those benefits along the way. So don't even try. Now, my friends, this is Christmas time. And although the country is doing better, a lot better under Trump, many Americans are still hurting, particularly those entering the workforce for the first time. Single mothers and people without college degrees. Many happen to be black and Hispanic. They don't have groups, by the way, like Pueblos Sin Fronteras or Central Sin Fronteras working on their behalf, filing cases on their behalf. Of course, as the competition from the cheap illegal labor harms their chances of employment, who's going to advocate their cases? Democrats used to claim that they cared about our poorest citizens, the little guy. But this year, Chuck and Nancy seem more like the Grinch, making promises to the illegals.
There's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, then I'll bring it back here.
Well, sure, give all the goodies to the illegals and leave the poor and the working class to pick up the bill. And by the way, take their tree. Without so much as a lump of coal in their stockings. Let's hope that Trump is successful before Christmas in getting the wall funded, and let's hope Congress finally gets its act together and remembers the meaning of that oath that they all took. Otherwise, the Grinch may get his way, or her way. And somehow, I don't think this will happen to her at the end of the story. And that's the angle. Every time I see the Grinch, I'm just so happy. Isn't that the best Christmas special ever? Here now to react, Chris Kobach, Kansas Secretary of State, and Scott Levinson, Democratic strategist, president of the Advance Group, and Victor Davis Hanson, senior fellow at the Hoover Institution, and author of the forthcoming book, Can't Wait, The Case for Trump. All right, Scott, as I just laid out in my angle, the burden of immigration every day on everyday Americans, illegal immigration, is pretty stark. So why do the Democrats seem to ignore the cost borne by the average working person?
What we actually do is recognize the fear-mongering that's gone on for months, and this fear that's been created by the Trump administration.
So you will not, if you could just
let me finish the thought, Laura, if I first thought out.
Scott, don't roll your eyes. That doesn't make you any more effective.
Well, no, it doesn't. If you just let me finish the thought again,
Scott, you did this last time,
no, what you do is you do fear-mongering.
No,
you do fear-mongering. Fear the caravan. Fear the caravan. The caravan's coming.
We didn't talk. We talked about a lot more than the caravan.
You want to talk about the money? All right, Laura. You know what? Let's talk about the money.
See this right off
Let's talk about the money,
I want everyone
Laura.
to see this off the
Let's
top.
talk about
This
the
is
money,
what
Laura.
Democrats do. I asked a simple question.
Let's
Scott,
talk about
I'm going to
the
give
money,
you a
Laura.
chance in 3 minutes. You're going to have 3 minutes to think about your answer, and then I'm going to come back to you.
I'm ready.
Okay,
Let's go,
3
Laura,
minutes.
right now. Why are you running?
Okay,
Oh, come
3
on, don't
minutes,
run
and
now.
then you'll come back. I'll go to
Okay.
Victor Davis Hanson.
Of
Victor,
course.
you've written about this, where liberals refuse to engage in a substantive dialogue. What are we going to do with the limited pool of money that we have, with all of the problems that they admit and they claim that we have in the country? What do we do with the limited pool of money? VDH.
Well, we take more immigrants than any country in the world. 20% of all the immigrants in the world come to the United States. We have more than we've ever had, 50 million, and we're getting to the percentage-wise, it's an unprecedented in our history. We're very magnanimous, and $75 billion go to Central America and Mexico in remittances. And if you do the math, it works out to about $6,000, $7,000 per person here who's undocumented, and that's $500 or $600 a month. And 60% of people here who are undocumented are on state assistance, or federal or local. So, Laura, you're basically asking the American taxpayer to subsidize remittances that go back. And that's in addition to about $2 billion in direct aid. And we have over 500 sanctuary cities where the immigration laws are not applied, and we don't do that to American citizens. If you disagree with the EPA regulation or gun registration, you can't set up a sanctuary gun city and say, you know what, federal laws don't apply to us. And, you know, it's sad because people should they have social justice questions, march on Mexico City or Guatemala City, not San Diego. And I think we really need to recalibrate the morality of all of this, because we have this idea that we're the victimizers and people trying to break in are the victims. But if you actually look at it, as you said, American citizens have competition for low-wage jobs, entry-wage jobs. Our social services are swamped. And then there's literally millions of people all over the world that play by the rules in Nigeria, South Korea, India, and all they want is a chance to be a legal immigrant on an meritocratic basis.
We're going to go back to Scott now. Because, Scott, you heard my initial question. You heard Victor Davis Hanson. I will give you a chance now to answer the question, because we love having you on.
Go ahead. As if we're in a three-card Monte game. If we talk about how much the immigrants are costing this country, we will forget the fact that this president committed to having Mexico pay for this wall that he wants. Nobody's talking today about how Mexico is no longer paying for the wall.
Okay, so you're still not answering the question.
We're all concerned about the cost of immigration, but we don't talk about the fact that the president committed to having Mexico build the wall.
Okay, so Scott,
Laura,
you're making our points for us.
Does that concern you?
Well, a lot concerns me. You know what? One thing concerns me: the fact that I've given you 2 bites at the apple, and you passed each one. No, I said multiple times on the show, you obviously missed it, that Mexico is not going to pay directly for the wall. But Mexico will not pay directly for the wall. But I'll tell you what. But I'll tell you what, Scott. You don't want a wall. You want open borders, and you won't answer the question. You had 2 chances. 3 strikes, you're out. Go back. Go ahead. Listen, I want him to talk all show, because we'll just more Republican registration.
Talked about how they wanted border security. That's what they spoke about at the meeting.
You take them all in, Scotty. You take them in your house, and I'll be impressed. Go ahead.
Anytime.
There are three major losers when we have unbridled illegal immigration right now. The first, as has been mentioned, is the American worker, because not only are those jobs taken, you also have wage depression, as Jorge Borjas has mentioned and has written about extensively. So the American workers still in those areas are working for lower wages. Secondly, the taxpayer. The total amount net, even if you take into account any taxes illegal aliens pay, the total amount that we taxpayers are on the hook for every year is over $100 billion if you look at state expenditures and federal expenditures. And then the third category of people who lose are the victims of the thousands upon thousands of illegal alien committed crimes. And as President Trump pointed out in that discussion yesterday, there's the terrorism risk as well. He mentioned 10 terrorists who've come across the southern border. Actually, there have been 15 publicized cases, and it's probably much higher than that because there are many that we didn't catch. So we have a very real cost in terms of our security, our jobs, and our tax burden.
Victor, there are about 40 to 50,000 American veterans of all races and backgrounds, including legal immigrants, who are sleeping on the street on any given night, and some about 2 blocks from where we are right here, because there's not enough room in the shelter near us, and so they're on the street. I think most Americans, if we have extra cash, extra money, they serve their country. They shouldn't be on the street. We should do something for those people. We all want that. But in this case, the money drives and flows to individuals. God bless them. Everybody's a child of God, but who violated our laws.
Sum that doesn't exist.
And so, Victor, again, liberals don't even know when the question is being directed at them. I'll get to you. Hold on. Victor, the question is, why has the shift occurred in the Democrat Party? 12 years ago, Obama and Schumer were all gung-ho on the triple fencing. Now you can't get them to talk about it. Why?
No, it's simply a matter of numbers, because when we had 2 or 3 people here, 2 or 3 million people illegally, then they thought it was an issue that unions were really angry about, and they were worried about low-wage constituencies in the inner city and Americans. And then suddenly, when we got up to 11 or maybe 20 million people, and we had children of, we have 50 million immigrants total, and when you count their children, we're up to 88. 90 million people, and 1 out of every 4 Californians wasn't born in the United States. And then it became a demographic issue and a political issue. So Nevada flipped. I'll be frank. California is never going to be red again. Nevada's not going to be red. Colorado is not going to be red.
To get to the point, VDH, it's about changing the demographic makeup of the country, which they hope will change the electoral makeup of the country, period. Is that cynical?
It's 2 things: power, political power, and money. It's employers that want cheap wages, and it's governments overseas that want $75 billion in remittances.
All right, guys.
And remember, they ask very poor people to send back money and be subsidized by the American taxpayer and live a very tough life so they can support
50% taxes. This is when I wish I could have you all for an hour. Thank you so much. Great panel. And by the way, it really was the story of the year, and we're staying on it because there's still outstanding questions. And my question is, why isn't anyone asking them? Up next, we examine the reemergence of Christine Blasey Ford and bring you exclusive updates about where the investigations stand on that leaked letter.
Sworn enemy of lying Papasi smugglers group. Think if I seem a little bit out of sorts, it's because there was, in fact, an invasion on our own set.
It's not an invasion. What else is an invasion?
Show it, ladies and gentlemen.
I've been here 23 years, and this is an invasion. You own this place now.
That's a very good point. Oh, you're in Washington now, though.
Well, great to see you in person.
Thank you,
great show, as always. And you actually have a calendar or time up there that you steal from my show. And
you actually owe us 32 seconds. Lily, our stage manager,
that is so not true.
For 2 years.
I'm going to buy you a calculator so we can get this straight. That's your Christmas gift this year. Great show.
Thanks,
Good to see you. All right, welcome to Hannity. Today, I had the honor of traveling with our First Lady, Melania Trump, as she visited brave U.S. service members on 2 military bases and aboard the USS George H.W. Bush, many who won't be with their families for Christmas. Heroes that will protect our freedoms as we enjoy the Christmas holidays. In just moments, we're going to show you the highlights of that interview and an exclusive one-on-one interview with the First Lady herself. Please stay tuned. Also, tonight we're going to bring you the latest on the sentencing of Michael Cohen, and we will reveal disturbing details surrounding what is really absolutely shameful treatment of a 33-year veteran of this country, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. Also, over at Conspiracy TV, MSNBC, Liberal Morning Joe, well, part of that team is in very hot water tonight. We'll tell you why. And also later, a dangerous terrorist on the loose in France. We will bring you an update on that manhunt. And some migrants, actually from Honduras, are now demanding reparations from you, the U.S. taxpayers. All right, buckle up. From D.C., the swamp, tonight's breaking news, opening monologue. All right, today I was fortunate enough to witness the bravery, the courage, the might of the U.S. military firsthand as I traveled with our First Lady, Melania Trump, to Joint Base Anacostia and Joint Base Langley, and then to the awe-inspiring aircraft carrier, the USS George H.W. Bush, where I had the opportunity to sit down with our First Lady. Take a look. Stay true to myself. You use that term a lot. And I want you to expand on that. What does that mean, considering, and I'll ask you about your roots a little bit, but that stuck out to me.
I do what I think it's right. I know I will get the criticism from the public or from the media, but I will do what is right and what I feel it's right for the country and for the people. And that's what I say. I want to stay true to myself and listen myself and what to do and what is right, what is wrong, and live meaningful life every day.
We're going to have that full interview in just a few minutes, along with our highlights of an incredible trip. Where do you see these planes landing and taking off? It's unbelievable. First, we do have updates on the Mueller partisan witch hunt. Today, Michael Cohen, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison after he pled guilty to tax evasion, making false statements on a bank loan application, lying to Congress about building a building project that never even got off the ground, and a questionable campaign finance violation. Notice something missing? No Trump-Russia collusion. None. Again, it's also important to note, Michael Cohen does not have a cooperation agreement with federal prosecutors. And meanwhile, tonight, another top target of this Mueller witch hunt, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, is asking a federal judge for leniency and no jail time. He pleaded guilty to lying to investigators, but only after legal bills wrecked his family finances, forced this man, 33-year veteran, 5 years of combat, to have to sell his home, and probably was most likely threatening punitive action against his son and his business partner. He fell on the sword like probably 99% of fathers would do. And tonight we are learning some disgusting new details surrounding how Lieutenant General Michael Flynn was treated by top federal officials. Now, according to Flynn's sentencing request, then Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe pressured then National Security Advisor Flynn not to have a lawyer present during a seemingly relaxed, casual meeting with the FBI, the one that they said he lied at, except nobody believed he lied. Flynn agreed to sit down without attorneys present and was then subsequently charged with lying during that very meeting. Now, keep in mind, Andrew McCabe was ultimately fired from the FBI for him lying to the Bureau, and he is currently facing no charges. According to FoxNews.com, Flynn's filing also seemingly demonstrates that the FBI took a significantly more aggressive tack in handling the Flynn interview than it did during other similar matters. For example, quote, no one interviewed during the FBI's Clinton email investigation was hit with false statement charges, though investigators believed those witnesses were untruthful. Big difference. And so as we now know, that is called a two-tiered justice system. And by the way, this might be part of the worst part of Flynn's political persecution. The agents interviewing Flynn, they never thought he lied. That is such a miscarriage of justice and an abuse of power corruption scandal, one of the biggest in American history, as we've been telling you. And of course, you're not likely to hear about any of this on any other media, especially over at Conspiracy TV MSNBC, especially not on the Liberal Morning Joe show, where the hosts literally spend hours every single day trying to outdo themselves, trading insults about Donald Trump and the Trump family and anybody associated with Trump. Now, it's a pretty sad and scary way to start your morning, but today, co-host Mika Brzezinski went too far. He used this pretty disgusting slur just before 9 a.m. Take a look.
I understand that Donald Trump doesn't care. Heilman makes a good point. He doesn't care. But why doesn't Mike Pompeo care right now? Are the pathetic deflections that we just heard when he appeared on Fox and Friends, is that a patriot speaking? Or a wannabe dictator's butt boy? I'm dead serious. I'm asking, are these the words of a patriot?
Wow. Questioning his patriotism? Unbelievable. Over the top. And then following the show on the other part of the issue, and she issued an apology on Twitter about her language. Some bad choice of words. I should have said water boy, like for football teams or something like that. Yeah, Mika, pretty bad choice of words. But we're consistent on this program. We don't call for boycotts. We don't call for firings of any kind. In fact, when Mika's colleague, MSNBC host Joy Reid, when she was in hot water over homophobic and conspiracy-filled blog that she had, we never called for her to be fired or for her show to be boycotted. People do make mistakes. People are not perfect. And I think we're all human. And I don't believe anybody's career, in my honest opinion, should be ruined over a stupid mistake. And by the way, she's no fan of mine, and neither is Liberal Joe. And I doubt they would do this for any opinion host here at Fox News. But it's sad to see Trump derangement syndrome claim yet another victim. And of course, there were many warning signs as the anti-Trump vitriol got worse and worse and worse. Let's take a look.
It is clear the president is stunningly ignorant. Probably the most ignorant president we will ever have. He's ignorant. He's warped. He's obsessed with money and sex. And he finds his power through those two things. He will be forever remembered as the president who traumatized little children. That's his brand now. He's the president who purposefully traumatized babies and children. It's very, almost caveman-like.
Have you seen
It really is. He's like Fred Flintstone running the country. I don't think he has the moral compass to make a decision based on our own national security. To anybody who works inside the White House, works on the national security team, works in the State Department, at some point you are working for a president who is not fit to lead, who's going to do something crazy in 5 minutes, 1 hour, tonight or tomorrow. Like, what more do you need to hear from him to start thinking 25th Amendment or something else?
We fixed it. We'll have more on this later in the show, but first we need to turn to breaking news in France. Widespread manhunt underway for the gunman in Tuesday's terror attack at a French Christmas market that left at least 2 dead. Now the 29-year-old suspect, identified right there as Sharif Chaket, allegedly shouting Allahu Akbar as he opened fire before escaping from the scene in a taxi. We're also learning tonight he had a long criminal record, and he was already on the authorities' radar for connections to radical Islam. So far, 5 other people with alleged ties to the suspect have now been detained. And even more frightening is that French authorities admit that he may have already slipped across the border into Germany. We'll keep you updated. We'll pray for the victims. Scary times. Make no mistakes, attack like this, all these attacks underscore the need for safety and security, like places, at our southern border, where we have caught people with terrorist ties trying to get into this country, where tonight migrant groups are literally, the ones, women and children that the media kept telling us about. Remember, they were trying to march to the U.S. consulate over Tijuana, demanding President Trump either let them into the country, or now they want us to pay them $50,000 in reparations to go home. Pay you to go home so you don't break our laws and don't disrespect our sovereignty. One group organizer arguing that it may seem like a lot of money to you, but it's a small sum compared to everything the United States has stolen from Honduras. Now look, we all know probably the vast majority of people that come from poor countries with no opportunity, no hope for their children or grandchildren are good people, searching for a better life. But demanding entry or pay you, or will overwhelm your immigration system, there's no way to act to demonstrate merit to come into this country. It's also a massive security risk. As the San Diego Tribune is reporting, thousands of migrants are now unaccounted for, writing, quote, in the group of unaccounted migrants, about 3,500 are presumed to have either crossed illegally into the U.S., moved to other Mexican border cities, or simply fallen through the cracks. That is why the president is standing firm, rightly so, on the border wall, forging ahead on keeping his promise to the forgotten men and women of this country to preserve our nation's safety and security first. Remember, a wall will literally help people on both sides be safer. And then, of course, the wall will have a big door, and you can come in legally, as the president has said. But we do have the right to vet anyone that wants to come into this country, because keeping out potential terrorists, human traffickers, drug traffickers, violent cartel members is a huge #1 priority for our national security. All right, we have a lot to get to tonight, including our interview with the First Lady. Joining us now, the author of the bestseller, Why We Fight, Fox News national security strategist Sebastian Gorka, and the author of another bestseller, The Deep State, Fox News contributor Jason Chaffetz. I read this about General Flynn. Okay, Michael Cohen admitted to these things. I feel sorry for him and his family tonight, but he admitted to these acts that he was responsible for. He's changed his position on a lot of issues. Now the media, they only want to believe the version that helps their narrative. Right. That's fine. That's politics. But he was pushed into, General Flynn, a 33-year war hero, 5 years in combat, forced in, told you don't need a lawyer. The FBI doesn't believe he lied. And then he's charged with lying anyway because he's bankrupt, can't fight it, and they're threatening probably his kid.
This is classic entrapment, Sean. If you listen to the testimony of the 2 FBI agents who don't think he was lying, if you look at what we now know about McCabe, who said, you don't need a lawyer, General Flynn, this is just an innocuous discussion, and then what do? They trap him in a process crime. Sean, everybody watching this show right now could be trapped in a process crime. I don't care how much of a Boy Scout you've been, everybody has a faulty memory. And you say one thing on Monday when you think you're in a friendly discussion with some fellow patriots, you think FBI agents, and then a week later, 2 weeks later, you remember it differently. That's it. You committed a felony because you have, quote unquote, lied to a federal agent. That's entrapment of General Flynn. And then we compare this to a man who secretly taped his conversations with his client. Think about that. Michael Cohen admitted he's a liar, and he's the kind of guy who has no qualms. The most sensitive thing a lawyer has is his relationship with his client, that exclusivity, that confidentiality. This man taped conversations with who knows how many clients. One of them is now the President of the United States. I know which man I believe, and it's General Flynn. I worked with him in transition. I worked with him in the White House. He is a patriot, Sean.
You know, I don't, Jason Chaffetz, you are like me. We've talked about that. My mom was a prison guard. My dad in family court probation. So many people in the NYPD. So 2 guys made it to the FBI. Deity in my family. They were the highest of the high. Naturally, we are inclined, we want to help our FBI. But if you're in a situation now and you want to help them and you're risking, if you don't remember something properly, remember he was illegally surveilled, illegally unmasked, they didn't use minimization, and they leaked raw intelligence on this man. Nobody cares about the crimes that were committed where they literally had the transcript. So anything that's not perfectly matched up in an interview to the transcript means that's a lie. That's how they're going to view it. 33 years. This is how we're going to treat this man and tell him, advise him, don't have a lawyer. What does that tell people that instinctively, like us, want to help our FBI? Not these corrupt officials at the top, rank and file, good field office FBI agents that are protecting this country.
Well, look, my grandfather was a career FBI agent. We have a great affinity for the FBI, but the upper echelon, it is now well documented, the bias and the animus that they had. And we have a great deal of thanks for General Flynn. You're right, 33 years of service. What's also very striking to me, though, Sean, is the difference in the way justice was played out. Because I was a very key player in what was going on in trying to get to the truth with Hillary Clinton and her email and the transfer of classified information to a non-classified setting, putting people's lives in danger. I mean, real lives in danger. And yet the 5 people around Hillary Clinton, they all got immunity agreements with no requirement to cooperate with the government. No ability for us, say in Congress or the Inspector General's office, to make sure that we could go back and get the truth about them. And then you contrast how the FBI was acting with Flynn and Cohen and others, and it just doesn't feel like justice is balanced.
Where is Horowitz on FISA abuse? Will we ever have an investigation into Hillary and the violation of the Espionage Act? Or let's say Dr. Gorka, forget me. Dr. Gorka has subpoenaed emails and he deletes them, wipes his hard drive clean, busts up his devices. Is he getting off? Yeah. I don't think he's getting off. I think he's going to jail.
I got the wrong last name.
No, you support this president, so that means there's a double standard. When is that? Where is that justice? Or do we not have justice or equal application of our laws in America anymore?
Well, it doesn't feel like we are having that equal application of justice. I know that the Inspector General is looking into the FISA abuse. That has expanded, and I don't think we're going to hear about it until the spring or so, because there's something like 1 million documents that they're probably having to sift through to get there. Now, once we have that information, the Inspector General can't prosecute. We have not had, Donald Trump has not had
shouldn't we have
an
had
Attorney
a special
General
counsel
for 2 years
on all of these other issues?
Well, we should have a special
for example,
counsel,
uranium
yes.
one.
And we need a real Attorney General. Yes.
We gave Putin
both
20% of our uranium, and we have to import it. The FISA warrant, where literally a dossier is paid for, Dr. Gorka, with Russian lies.
Not only that, I think the biggest story is still out there, and that's the unmasking. I mean, we've talked about, for 6 minutes, about General Flynn, a patriot who was trapped by a political use of the intelligence community and law enforcement. We know there are hundreds of Americans who were unmasked by the Obama administration. Why?
Because at a 300% increase rate.
Right, and then what
2016.
happened? Just before the inauguration, the president says, oh, let's share all of this intelligence with 7 times as many agencies as we did before, because who knows, maybe we can bring down the presidency. That's what we're talking about. The politicized use, the weaponization of the intelligence community, and potentially hundreds of Americans are affected, Sean.
You know, and let's stay on that, because if we really cared about Russian influence in the election, which has now evolved into, well, Donald Trump may have committed a felony campaign finance violation, with no lawyer is ever going to buy into, intelligent lawyer that is, right, except for these crazy dumb TV pundits that are way overpaid and just incendiary in their hatred for 2 years of Donald Trump. So the question is, are we really going to allow somebody who paid for Russian influence with funneled money, interestingly, campaign finance violation perhaps, to a law firm, legal expense, not true, foreign national, Russian lies, fed to the American people, influenced the election, and money kickback in the uranium deal that was signed off on? You can't tell me that this